Good afternoon. I'm Scott Rozelle, the immediate past chairman of the Lone Star Flight Museum's Board of Directors. And on behalf of our current chairman, Pete Olson, and the other members of our board, I'd like to second the welcome to you for being with us for this wonderful event. Every year at the museum, numerous worthy candidates with impressive and honorable careers and accomplishments are nominated for induction into the Texas Aviation Hall of Fame. This year, 4 remarkable nominees were selected to be inducted, and we're pleased to have all of the inductees represented here today. Each inductee, or representative of an inductee, will receive an official Texas Aviation Hall of Fame medal, Class of 2024 award, and an official proclamation from Governor Greg Abbott. I would like to begin the ceremony with our first inductee, Colleen C. Barrett.
Born in Bellows Falls, Vermont, Colleen grew up with a passion for people, inheriting her mother's generosity for others. Encouraged to be a problem solver and to follow the golden rule to treat others as she would like to be treated, Colleen was destined to have a servant's heart. Studious and overachieving, Colleen Barrett began clerical and legal work as a junior in high school. Developing a passion for the law, she attended Becker College in Worcester, Massachusetts, and became a legal secretary. Barrett moved to San Antonio, Texas in 1968, and it was there she met and began working for attorney Herb Kelleher. He quickly recognized Colleen's hard work and talent, taking her under his wing as her mentor and coach. Barrett worked for Herb for several years and was instrumental in supporting the founding of Southwest Airlines in 1967. Despite many legal battles and the struggles of a new airline in an industry dominated by more powerful brand names, Southwest Airlines launched its first flight in 1971. While raising her son, Barrett became the corporate secretary of Southwest Board of Directors in 1978 and quickly rose through the ranks of Southwest leadership, holding such roles as Vice President of Administration, Executive Vice President for Customers, and Chief Operating Officer. Her unique and valuable combination of exceptional administrative skills, an intuition for understanding people, and a heart for service led to her involvement and leadership in nearly every aspect of the business. In 2001, she was named by Herb as his successor. As president, Barrett became the first woman to hold such a position in the airline industry. Though she faced challenges within the industry, she continued to lead with the belief that the success of one could not happen at the expense of others. Her tireless work to ensure the voices of both customers and employees were heard became an integral part of the culture and success of Southwest. Her leadership was truly tested in the wake of the September 11th terrorist attacks. As the airline industry came to a halt, Barrett spent the 48 hours after the attack checking in on employees. Southwest would be the first U.S. airline to resume operations 3 days later. Southwest was also the only airline at the time to see a profit and had no employee layoffs. Barrett's focus on positively outrageous customer service led to great success and customer loyalty for the airline and solidified a culture that thrives today at Southwest. She stepped down from her position as president in July 2008 after serving more than 50 years with the airline, but remains engaged, adding to her dozens of awards, accolades, and honors. For her accomplishments, we're proud to induct Colleen C. Barrett into the Texas Aviation Hall of Fame.
Accepting on behalf of Colleen C. Barrett, please welcome Elizabeth Bryant, Senior Vice President and Chief People Officer for Southwest Airlines.
Well, hello, and thank you very, very much to say that I was honored when Colleen asked me to speak on her behalf as the 2024 inductee into the Texas Aviation Hall of Fame is an understatement. This is a deeply personal privilege and a memory that I will cherish, as will every person she invited to sit at her tables today and share in this moment. She sends her love and her LUV love to each of you. She also sends her thanks to the Lone Star Flight Museum for hosting this wonderful ceremony. If Colleen were able to be here today, she would, but not for the recognition or the opportunity to speak. In fact, she would shy away from both. She would want to highlight the accomplishments and goodness of the people of Southwest Airlines, to whom she devoted her entire career and, by extension, her life. What makes Colleen's story so beautiful is the purity in how she approached everything that came her way. She didn't know there were expectations or stereotypes when it came to building and operating a business. What she knew, she learned from her mother, which was the value of hard work and serving others. Colleen turned a 2-year associate's degree and elite secretarial skills into becoming the first female president of a major airline, overseeing every internal operating department at Southwest Airlines. She embraced every challenge with curiosity, determination, and innate understanding that for the whole company to succeed, it must cultivate the individual success of each employee. And she did. Taking care of the people of Southwest Airlines, the foremost being Herb Kelleher, was Colleen's intuitive cause. In doing so, she provided the platform on which Southwest built its iconic brand, a fierce commitment to customer service, devotion to servant leadership, and a one-of-a-kind employee-centric culture. She helped usher in a new standard for corporations worldwide on effectively balancing the needs of employees with crucial outcomes like profitability, innovation, and steady growth. While Herb was the charismatic visionary behind Southwest Airlines, Colleen was the consummate strategic partner. If he could see it, she could execute it. She lived in the details, paying attention to the highs and the lows of employee experience. She responded personally to life events and celebrated practically everything, yet never failed to meet the weight of her responsibilities. She met and mastered her most significant leadership challenge in managing the aftermath of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. She personally crafted the company's response by sharing the same message of hope with customers as she did employees, and it worked. One of Colleen's mantras is "Don't make the easy hard." This straightforward approach is her way of clearing the clutter when things that seem complicated really don't have to be. In fun times, in hard times, in easy or uncomfortable moments, in success or failure, she was a teacher, a coach, a friend, a mentor, a counselor, a cheerleader, and sometimes judge and jury. I believe those moments most clearly reveal her worth and are the immovable foundation of her legacy. On behalf of Colleen and every Southwest Airlines employee, past and present, as well as friends and supporters too numerous to count, thank you for this tribute. Thank you and congratulations to the other inductees for their remarkable contributions and impact on aviation in Texas and beyond. What a privilege and honor for Colleen to be among this special group. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Our next inductee is R. Walter Cunningham.
Born in Iowa in 1932 and raised in California, Ronnie Walter Cunningham enlisted in the U.S. Navy in 1951. He started flight training the next year, earned his wings, and was commissioned into the U.S. Marine Corps. He served as a fighter pilot with the Marines, including flying 54 missions as a night fighter pilot in Korea. After leaving active service, Cunningham continued to serve in the Marine Corps Reserves until retiring as a colonel in 1975. After his active military service, Cunningham attended Santa Monica College and the University of California, Los Angeles, and received his bachelor's and master's of arts degree in physics. He left his PhD program prior to completing his thesis in 1963, after being selected to NASA's third group of astronauts. First named an Apollo crew in 1966, Cunningham, assigned as a lunar module pilot, joined Don Isley, command module pilot, and mission commander Walter Schirra as the primary crew for the second Apollo flight. But all of that changed on January 27, 1967, with the tragic launch pad fire and deaths of Apollo 1 astronauts Gus Grissom, Edward White, and Roger Chaffee. Following the loss of Apollo 1, the manned missions were paused for the next 21 months. An extensive mishap investigation, program review, system redesign, and testing followed. Now named as the primary crew for that first crewed mission, Cunningham, Schirra, and Isley monitored construction of the new command module and supported testing life support, propulsion, guidance, and control systems in preparation for their Apollo 7 mission. Apollo 7 launched on October 11, 1968, making it the first American three-man space mission, as well as the first crew launch on a Saturn 1B rocket. Their mission objectives sounded simple enough, but much was riding on Apollo 7's success. The crew returned on October 22nd to great success after completing all assigned mission tasks. Cunningham and the Apollo 7 crew provided NASA and the country the confidence to pursue President John F. Kennedy's goal of sending a man to the moon by the end of the decade. Apollo 8 flew 2 months later. Cunningham went on to head the Skylab branch of the Astronaut Office and resigned from NASA in 1971. During his time with NASA and the Marine Corps, he flew over 4,500 hours, including 263 hours in space. In 2008, he was awarded the NASA Distinguished Service Medal for his role in the Apollo 7 mission. He's also been inducted into the U.S. Astronaut Hall of Fame, Iowa Aviation Hall of Fame, International Air and Space Hall of Fame, and the National Aviation Hall of Fame. For his achievements, we are proud to induct R. Walter Cunningham into the Texas Aviation Hall of Fame.
Accepting on behalf of Walt Cunningham is Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. You probably noticed this tie even from a distance. Dot, his beautiful wife, gave it to me after his passing and said it was his favorite tie. I thought it very appropriate to wear it today. I feel like a family member should be standing here, but they treat me like family. I met Dot and Walt 25, 30 years ago. I've lost count. And like so many of his friends who are here today, like Dr. Gittleman and others, they made everyone feel like family. We worked and still work with the charity, Children with Disabilities, Be an Angel, and that's where we met and became friends. I usually give a long speech, this will be very short, on what history is and is not. And then I'm going to call Dot up when I conclude in a moment to accept the medal and the award. The short version of my speech is this. I once talked with David McCullough, who wrote great books on Adam and Jefferson in 1776 and was the narrator of the Civil War series on PBS. And I was a big fan of his. And years ago, I met him and I talked about history. And he said, Dan, there is no such thing as history. I said, what do you mean? I love history. He said, we look at history from where we stand today, not where they stood then. And the truth is that history, that we call it, is nothing more than a group of events or an event in the context of time and the decision that brave men and women had to make. with no assurances their decisions would be right. August 27th, 1776, General Howe ran General Washington out of New York. He didn't win many battles for the next several years. We look back now and we say, of course we knew the founders would win. Well, had they lost, they would have been hung. They would have lost all their property. Their families would have been imprisoned. It was men making a decision for liberty and freedom and independence then. On April 21st, I believe, is the date, Fort Sumter was attacked. We didn't know that the country would be together at that time and as we went through the Civil War. But in history, we look back and say, of course we knew the country would not break in two. On June 6, 1944, Eisenhower sent brave soldiers to Omaha Beach. We look back from our vantage point, well, of course Eisenhower knew it would work out. Everything was put on the line. Lives were put on the line. And when Walt and crew took off on October 11th, 1968, we look back now and say, of course they knew they would have a safe flight. And when we look back on history and look at all of these great leaders and the chances that they took, and you realize they didn't know the outcome, that's when you realize what heroes they were. I remember Walt telling me on the day, January 27th, 1967, that Apollo 1 burned on the pad. They landed in Ellington. They had been in that capsule that morning because they were the backup crew for Apollo 1. And when they landed, they heard that their 3 friends had been killed in the fire. It could have been them. And then they waited as NASA tried to fix everything, because Kennedy said, we're going to get to the moon by 1969. Again, we look back in history. Of course Kennedy knew they would do it. They had no idea how to do it when he said that. And Walt told me that it was painful during those months of waiting for NASA to let them go into space, because all their other friends, all their pilots were in Vietnam, many getting shot down and killed or captured. And the astronauts wanted to go to Vietnam because they didn't feel like they were doing enough, sitting and waiting. They didn't know how their mission, Apollo 7. There was no Apollo 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, by the way. Just went from 1 to 7. So on that day when they climbed to that capsule to go up in space for 11 days, if that flight had failed, we would not have been on the moon by the end of that decade. In fact, who knows when we would have gotten there. So when they got up on that rocket, they basically were told, look, we think we fixed everything from Apollo 1. Imagine getting on top of that rocket, sitting in that capsule for 11 days where you can barely move. But when that launched, they didn't know what the future was. So when we look back in history at all of our astronauts, at all of the space shuttles, everything we've done in space, remember, they took tremendous risk. They didn't know what the future held. They thought they were trained, they were ready to go, and they, for this country, for independence and liberty and freedom, they were like Washington, they were like Lincoln, they were like Eisenhower, and all the soldiers and all the men and women who have made this country what it is today. So just remember, when you think about history, it's easy to look back and say, we knew we'd win. They did it anyway, not knowing, but believing they would. Walt said he never doubted they would come back home safely. I saw this, just popped up on my screen, and then Don, I'm going to bring you up. It's been a little bit more than a year since Walt passed. And this literally just, I don't even know where it came from. I don't know the name of the poem. It says, do not stand at my grave and weep. I'm not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I'm the sunlight of ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry. I'm not there. I did not die. I know Walt has reached the far heavens where Jesus reigns, because he loved the Lord as much as he loved this country. Dot, please come up and accept his award. Dot Cunningham. Please stand for Dot. because she was the brave one having to sit there when he was in space, all those times and all those risks and everything that happened.
Thank you.
Here, let me put this medal on you. Hold on.
Oh, we got one.
First, yes, put that on. Okay. Oh, sorry. Oops. Oh, I'll get it.
If Walt were here today, he would be so proud. General, your staff, all of those of you that have worked so wonderfully with me in helping put this together today, there's not words enough to say. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's been fun to work with you, and if Walt was here, he would have been so excited. I think he'd like you to know, most people think that the best thing that ever happened to him in his life was becoming an astronaut. But he would quickly tell you, not so. The Marine Corps, Walt gave credit for making him the man that he became today. And his entire life, he did everything he could for America, and he did it with pride. But the second thing that he would like you to know, that what he loves the most is Texas. He never wanted to go to Arlington. He didn't feel like it was warm and cozy. He wanted to somewhere be where it was nice, that he loved and made him feel good. So if you're in Austin and you're at the State Cemetery, you'll find him on top of the hill where the flag is flying, and he's overlooking the Capitol, watching what Dan's doing. But I do want to tell you, it is a great honor of all that Walt has ever received, is to receive this honor today. He loved Texas. He wanted to be in Texas, and he never wanted to be anywhere else. So thank all of you for being his friends. Thank you for all of the love and the joy you've shown to the family. And I will see you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Scott. You did great. Governor, thanks. Thank you, Dot, and thank you, Governor Patrick. Our third inductee is Wally Funk.
From a young age, Wally Funk's passion for aviation was encouraged by her parents, who helped her understand she could do anything she wanted to, giving her the confidence she would carry with her throughout her life. From attempting to fly off of her father's barn at 5 years old wearing a Superman's cape, to making balsa wood airplanes that hung from the ceiling in her home, Wally's fascination for flight took real wings when she enrolled in Stevens College in Missouri at 16. There, she joined the Flying Susie's flight program, where she was rated first in her class of 24 students and graduated with her pilot's license and an associate's degree. Wally went on to graduate from Oklahoma State University and became a member of the renowned Flying Aggies program. She was named Outstanding Female Pilot, Flying Aggie Top Pilot, and received the Alfred Alder Memorial Trophy 2 years in a row, while earning numerous pilot and instructor ratings. Wally's first flying job was at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, as a civilian flight instructor for the United States military. It was there she first heard about a new program that looked to the stars. In 1961, Wally volunteered for an unofficial Women in Space program run by Dr. William Randolph Lovelace. Lovelace helped develop and conduct tests for the male Mercury astronauts and sought to research women's capabilities for spaceflight. Also known as the First Lady Astronaut Trainees, or FLATs, at age 22, Wally was the youngest of the candidates in the program, subjected to the same tests as NASA's male astronauts. 13 women, including Wally, passed the tests, earning them the nickname the Mercury 13. Despite their testing performance, an American woman in space was still decades off, and Wally never gave up the dream. She continued to pursue her passion for aviation through instructing, racing, and breaking barriers. Wally was the 58th woman to earn her airline transport rating and became the first woman to complete the Federal Aviation Administration's General Aviation Operations Inspector Academy course, where she worked as a field examiner. In 1974, she became the first female air safety investigator for the National Transportation Safety Board, investigating 450 aircraft mishaps before retiring in 1985. On July 20th, 2021, her dream of spaceflight was realized when she flew aboard the Blue Origin New Shepard spacecraft alongside Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos and 2 other passengers. Launching from Blue Origin's Corn Ranch, the spacecraft flew 62 miles into the atmosphere, crossing the Kármán line, making Wally the oldest person in space at the time. Wally Funk was born to fly, and after more than 60 years and 19,000 flight hours, her efforts continue to influence thousands through her inspiration and those she taught how to fly. For her trailblazing achievements, we proudly induct Wally Funk into the Texas Aviation Hall of Fame.
Accepting on behalf of Wally Funk is 2020 Texas Aviation Hall of Fame inductee Eileen Collins.
Well, thank you very much. This is a tremendous honor for me to be here to represent Wally. I know that she would be here if she could. I've known Wally since 1994, so I want to say a few things about her. She is such a passionate, energetic person. She loves flying more than anybody I know in my life. Wally loves to fly. And you know, people hear about Wally and they think about the Mercury 13. That's very important because the Mercury 13 women, who, by the way, Wally did extremely well in those tests. They proved that women had the physical and mental abilities to fly in space. And that was like 1960. And then later, in 1978, NASA brought in their first 6 women into the space shuttle program. And we have Wally and the Mercury 13 women to thank for that and the work that they did, which was not fun. And I know, talking to Wally about it, it just took a lot of perseverance to get through that. The other thing I want to say about Wally that I think is really tremendous is the work that she did as the first woman accident investigator for the NTSB. I think that's got to be one of the hardest jobs you could possibly have. And she did, I think they said, over 450 accidents over the years. It just goes to show you, her love of flying and her love of safety. And she also instructed student pilots very, very late into her life. And she's still a role model for me. If she could fly that late into life, maybe I can too. And the last thing I want to say is the opportunity that Blue Origin gave Wally late in her life. The years that I have been with Wally and talking on the phone with her, she always said she wanted to fly in space. That was her dream. And she finally had the opportunity to do that, not only at her age, but the fact that she was able to show the world that dreams can come true even if you're in your 80s. And she's still a role model for me. So I'm very happy that Blue Origin gave her that opportunity. And another thing I want to say is I believe that space tourism, led by people like Wally Funk, is going to be tremendously successful someday. What a human experience of floating and looking back at the Earth from space. It's something that we hope that everybody would have an opportunity to do. And there'll be more and more opportunities as time goes on. So Wally achieved her dream in 2021, and what else can I say? I'm a poor substitute for Wally up here right now, and what would she say if she could be here? It's not about me, it's about flying and about the passion for flying. So thank you very much, and I thank Wally for the opportunity to accept for her, and I thank the Lone Star Flight Museum for putting on this tremendous event and for all that you do here to inspire young people to go into aviation and space as a career. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Eileen. You were great. Thank you very much, Eileen. Our final inductee this evening is Heather Wilson.
Dr. Heather Wilson was born into a family of aviators. Raised in Keene, New Hampshire, her father was a commercial pilot, and her grandfather was a Royal Air Force World War I pilot, an immigrant who founded the New Hampshire Civil Air Patrol. Both were inspirations for what would become a long and distinguished career in military, higher education, government, and private industry. The first in her family to go to college, Dr. Wilson attended the U.S. Air Force Academy in the third class to include women. As a distinguished graduate in 1982, she was awarded a Rhodes Scholarship to attend Oxford University in England, where she earned her master and doctoral degrees in international relations. 35 years after her academy graduation, she became the 24th Secretary of the Air Force and first academy graduate to hold the position. While Dr. Wilson did inherit the family passion for flying by becoming an instrument-rated private pilot, her professional career and impact followed a broader path. After serving as an Air Force officer until 1989 as a negotiator and political advisor in the United Kingdom, and as a defense planning officer for NATO in Belgium, she continued her international focus on President George H.W. Bush's National Security Council staff, helping facilitate U.S. negotiations on conventional forces in Europe. Dr. Wilson's experience expanded into the private sector with her founding of Keystone International Incorporated in 1991, a scientific and defense industry-focused company. Called to public service as a cabinet secretary in New Mexico state government, Dr. Wilson was responsible for foster care, adoption, and other children's issues very important to her. In 1998, Dr. Wilson was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives for New Mexico. Over her 10 years in Congress, she served on the House Armed Services Committee and House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, among others, where she helped shape national security policy following the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks. After leaving Congress and a second venture into the public sector, she was named president of the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology in 2013, where she served until her nomination for Secretary of the Air Force in January 2017. Sworn in as secretary on May 16, 2017, Dr. Wilson was responsible for the organizing and training of 660,000 Air Force personnel, heavily focusing on rebuilding the Air Force's readiness for combat. By 2019, her efforts had significantly improved the Air Force's readiness posture. On March 8, 2019, Wilson resigned from her position as Secretary of the Air Force to become the 11th President of the University of Texas at El Paso, serving and impacting the lives of over 24,000 students. With more than 40 years of leadership experience in the military, government, education, and private sectors, and numerous awards, honors, and achievements, we are proud to induct Dr. Heather Wilson into the Texas Aviation Hall of Fame.
Please welcome to the stage Dr. Heather Wilson.
Well, thank you all so much. I think I am now the first Cessna 152 pilot in the Aviation Hall of Fame. It is a wonderful honor to be here and to join all of you. I have a few special thank yous, particularly to Becky Ludy and the Women's Aviation Advisory Board for the FAA. It's been absolutely wonderful to work with all of you. Doug Owens and the folks here at the museum, not only thank you for this event, but thank you for flying a B-25 Raider to Palmdale, California for the rollout of the next American air superiority bomber, named for the Raiders. And that's the first time I became aware of this museum, and I have to say thank you. That was one of the best days, but absolutely best days. So thank you for that and for your leadership here. Lieutenant Governor Patrick and the other members of who are servants here, and those of you who are men and women in the uniform, thank you for everything you do to serve our community and to our state. And to many of our alumni who join me here from the University of Texas at El Paso, thank you for coming today, and particularly to my son Joshua, who just has relocated back to the United States. He is not an aviator, but he has an interest in kindred subjects. Thank you for joining me. You know, when I was Secretary of the Air Force, I wore the chevron of the United States Air Force every day, because you ride with the brand. You ride for the brand. Today is a little different. And so I went into my drawer and I took out the symbol of the Army Air Corps, where both my dad and my grandfather served. My grandfather, of course, did that pretty late in his life, because at the time they weren't really interested in having old guys like him flying active duty. He performed sub-search in the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of New England, because he had been in 1918 one of the first pilots in the Royal Air Force. So I wear these wings in honor of them, and also in honor of those who served beside them, particularly the WASPs. When I was 17 years old and they opened the Air Force Academy to women, my dad had died, but my grandfather was still alive. And he had a tremendous influence on me. And so I went to talk to him about it. And I remember where he was, sitting in his living room, when I went to told him I was thinking about this Air Force Academy thing. And he got real quiet. And then he said, well, I flew with some women in World War II, the WASPs, and they were pretty good sticks. So I guess that'd be okay. And with his blessing and a full ride scholarship, I became the first person in my family to go to college. So thank you to those who went before, who opened the doors for people like me. It has been my honor, in some small way, to keep those doors open for those who are interested in aviation and space exploration, so that talented others can follow. God bless you all. God bless the great state of Texas and the United States of America.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. Let's have a final round of applause for the 2024 inductees to the Texas Aviation Hall of Fame. Before we all depart, I want to thank you once again for being here with us today to honor these new inductees and for your ongoing support of this museum and its mission. I invite you all to tour the Hall of Fame exhibit that is in the Heritage Gallery just through those doors, and to enjoy docent-led tours of the museum. If you're interested in joining a tour, please meet the docents at the admissions desk in the main entry hall, just where you came in. So thank you again for coming. We appreciate your being here, and these proceedings are now concluded.